Welcome back to Calm Coding, everybody. Today we're doing like a deep dive into cybersecurity. We're uh, wading through a bunch of reports and news articles, and I think we even have some leaked documents to get a
Yeah,
clearer picture of kind of the state of cybersecurity right now.
exactly. And while cybersecurity might seem like this vast and intimidating topic, I think the goal today is to distill all these sources down to, what are the key takeaways,
Right.
for you as coders.
Think of this as a cheat sheet to
Yeah,
stay ahead of the curve and protect yourself and your work and your users.
absolutely.
So where do we even begin with all this? What stood out to you as we were going through the research?
Honestly, the sheer scale of corporate data breaches is pretty alarming. One report I saw found that 98% of top European companies experienced a third-party data breach
98%.
in the last year.
That's almost every single one.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So even if companies themselves have really tight security, they can still be vulnerable through their partners and vendors.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's like a chain reaction.
Right.
One weak link can compromise the whole system. And this isn't just a European problem either. Atos, which is like a massive French tech company, recently reported a possible attack by this ransomware group
Who what?
called Space Bears.
Ransomware, that's where they hold your data hostage until you pay up.
Yeah, basically.
Yikes.
And while Atos says that they haven't found concrete evidence of a breach, yet this same group, Space Bears, has already hit a bunch of companies in Canada and India.
So they're pretty active and widespread.
Oh yeah, they're out there.
This really highlights just how interconnected all these cyber threats are.
For sure.
Reminds me of the U.S. Treasury Department breach a while back. That was through a third-party vendor as well, right?
Yeah, that's right. It was beyond trust.
Mhm.
And that breach had some pretty serious consequences. They had to take systems offline, and it caused a lot of disruption. So even organizations with, really good security measures can be compromised through these seemingly harmless third-party connections. So it really underscores the importance of vetting your partners and making sure that their security practices are up to par.
It's like you can have the strongest lock on your door,
Right.
but if you leave a window open,
Exactly.
someone can still get in.
Yep.
Okay, so we've got corporations being targeted, but what about something a little closer to home? What are some of the threats that are specifically targeting us, the coders?
Well, one campaign that really caught my eye is called Contagious Interview, and it's being run by North Korea's Lazarus Group,
Oh, I don't know.
and they're using fake job offers to target software developers and other high-profile individuals.
Fake job offers. So those scammy emails that promise you a six-figure salary for working from home.
It's a little more sophisticated than that. They create very believable job postings, often imitating legitimate companies, and then they use those to trick people into downloading malware, disguised as application forms or portfolio samples.
So they're essentially phishing for sensitive information through these bogus job postings.
Exactly.
What kind of malware are we talking about here?
One example is OtterCookie. Don't let the cute name fool ya. This thing's nasty.
OtterCookie. What does it actually do?
It can steal all sorts of sensitive data, like login credentials,
Right.
financial information, even cryptocurrency wallet keys.
Oh, no.
And here's the really creepy part. It can manipulate your clipboard.
Wow.
So anything you copy and paste could be compromised.
Wait, so if I'm a developer and I copy and paste an API key or some other sensitive code snippet, that information could be stolen.
Exactly. So it's just a reminder to be extra vigilant,
Yeah.
especially when dealing with unsolicited job offers or anything that seems too good to be true.
Right.
Always double check the source, the email address, and definitely avoid downloading anything from unverified sources.
Good advice. It really makes you wonder how even experienced developers can fall for these traps.
Well, a recent attack on a cybersecurity firm called Cyberhaven really highlights how sophisticated these attacks have become.
Wait, a cybersecurity firm got hacked? That's ironic.
I know, right? It really shows that no one is immune.
Wow.
They were targeted through a phishing attack that was specifically designed to trick one of their developers. The attackers created this malicious Chrome extension
Oh, no.
that was disguised as a privacy policy extension.
So it looked like something that would actually enhance your privacy.
Exactly. And the developer was tricked into granting this extension a bunch of permissions and access.
Ouch. So even people who are supposed to be experts in security can be fooled by these tactics.
That's the scary part. And here's the kicker. Because this compromise extension was automatically updated on Chrome, it ended up infecting over 400,000 users with malicious code.
Wow, that's a huge number.
Yeah.
And it emphasizes the point that even seemingly trustworthy sources can be compromised.
Absolutely.
So what can we do to protect ourselves from these, sneaky extensions?
Well, always carefully review the permissions that an extension is requesting before you install it.
Okay.
If something seems, excessive or out of place, that's a red flag. And just try to stick to extensions from reputable developers and companies that you trust.
Okay, so we've got corporations, governments, and now even cybersecurity firms getting hit.
It's a wild world out there.
Starting to feel like a bit of a free-for-all out there.
Yeah, for sure.
But let's shift gears for a moment and talk about some potentially good news,
Okay.
especially for those of you working in the U.S. healthcare sector.
All right.
Tell me there's some light at the end of this tunnel.
Well, the U.S. government is proposing new cybersecurity requirements for healthcare firms.
Okay.
The goal is to better protect all that sensitive patient data they handle.
Right. That sounds like a good move, especially considering how much data healthcare organizations store and transmit.
For sure.
What are some of the key measures they're proposing?
So they're talking about mandatory routine like vulnerability and breach scans, which would help identify weaknesses before they can be exploited.
Right.
They also want to require data encryption,
Yeah.
both in transit and at rest,
All right.
to make it much harder for hackers to access sensitive information, even if they manage to breach a system.
Encryption is essential, especially when you're dealing with something as personal as medical records.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
What else is on the table?
They're also proposing multi-factor authentication for anyone accessing, sensitive systems.
Okay.
This adds an extra layer of security by requiring users to provide multiple forms of identification,
Right.
making it much harder for attackers to impersonate legitimate users.
That makes sense. And they're going to require some, serious anti-malware protection.
Oh,
Right?
absolutely.
Yeah.
And to top it all off, they want to implement annual compliance audits to make sure that everyone is actually following these new rules.
That sounds pretty comprehensive.
Yeah.
But I imagine all of this is going to come with a hefty price tag.
You're absolutely right. They're estimating it'll cost healthcare organizations a whopping $9 billion
Wow.
in the first year alone to implement all these new requirements,
Agreed.
and another $6 billion over the following 2 years.
Wow. That's a huge investment.
It is.
But I guess you could argue that it's a small price to pay compared to the potential damage of a major breach.
Yeah, that's the argument they're making. And they're citing the fact that large-scale security breaches and ransomware attacks on healthcare organizations have more than doubled since 2019.
Oh, wow.
So they see this as a necessary step to protect these organizations and their patients.
It sounds like a step in the right direction, at least.
Yeah.
But you have to wonder if it will be enough to keep up with the, ever-evolving tactics of these cyber criminals.
That's a great question. And that brings us to our next point. Yeah, it's a constant cat and mouse game.
It is.
As soon as we develop new security measures, the attackers find new ways to circumvent them.
It's exhausting just thinking about it. So where does that leave us? What can we as coders do to protect ourselves and our work in this ever-shifting landscape?
Well, I think the first step is awareness. The more you understand about the tactics these, hackers are using,
Right.
the better equipped you'll be to spot them and avoid falling victim.
Yeah. So knowledge is our first line of defense.
Absolutely.
But what about concrete actions?
Mm-hmm.
Are there things we can implement right now to boost our security?
For sure. One of the simplest yet most effective things you can do is to use strong, unique passwords for all your accounts.
Yeah.
And please, for the love of all that is sacred, enable two-factor authentication wherever it's available.
Two-factor authentication. That's where you get a code sent to your phone or email to
Yeah.
confirm your identity,
It's
right?
exactly.
Okay.
It adds that extra layer of security, making it much harder for someone to access your accounts, even if they manage to, like, steal your password.
So it's like having a deadbolt on your digital door. But with so many accounts these days, it can be hard to keep track of all those like complex passwords.
That's where a good password manager comes in.
Password managers, those are lifesavers.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
generate and store all those crazy passwords for you so you don't have to remember them all.
Right.
I love it.
And the good ones can also alert you if any of your passwords have been, compromised in a data breach, allowing you to change them before any damage is done.
Okay, so strong passwords, two-factor authentication, and a password manager. Those are some like great foundational steps. What else should we be thinking about?
Be cautious about the links you click and the attachments you open,
Right.
especially if they come from unexpected sources. Phishing emails are getting increasingly sophisticated, like mimicking legitimate companies and services so well that it's easy to fall for one if you're not careful.
Yeah, it's like those fake job offers we talked about earlier.
Exactly.
They can be incredibly convincing.
They can. If something seems even slightly suspicious, it's better to, like, err on the side of caution.
Right.
Verify the sender,
Yeah.
check the links carefully.
Okay.
And if you're not expecting an attachment, like, think twice before opening it.
Don't click on anything from that Nigerian prince. Right. Okay, so I've got passwords, two-factor authentication, a password manager, and being wary of phishing attempts. What else?
This might seem obvious, but keep your software up to date.
Oh, yeah.
Those updates often include, like, critical security patches that can protect you from known vulnerabilities.
Yeah, those update notifications can be annoying.
I know.
But they're essential for staying secure. It's like patching holes in your digital armor.
Precisely. And here's a tip that's especially important for coders.
Okay.
Be mindful of the permissions you grant to apps and extensions.
Oh, yeah. It's easy to just like click allow without really thinking about it.
Yeah.
But those permissions can give apps access to all sorts of sensitive data on your computer.
Exactly. So take a moment to read through those permissions and make sure you understand what you're granting access to. If something seems excessive or unnecessary, don't be afraid to, like, deny the request.
So I've got strong passwords, two-factor authentication, a password manager, being wary of phishing attempts, keeping software updated, and being mindful of app permissions.
That's a lot.
That's a lot to keep in mind.
But honestly, it all boils down to, like, being aware,
Right.
being cautious, and being proactive. Cybersecurity is a journey, not a destination.
I like that.
It's about constantly, like, learning, adapting,
Yes.
and staying one step ahead of the bad guys.
And it's a journey we're all on together, right? Like we need to share information, learn from each other's experiences, and support each other in building a more secure digital world.
I couldn't agree more. And, one of the things I find really encouraging is that there's a growing, like, sense of community around cybersecurity.
Yeah.
People are realizing that this isn't just a tech issue.
Right.
It's a human issue.
Yeah.
It's about protecting ourselves,
Yeah.
our loved ones,
Our community.
and our communities.
It's about creating a digital world where we can all like thrive without constantly looking over our shoulders,
Not
right?
saying.
But that sense of like shared responsibility is key, isn't it? We can't rely solely on like governments or tech companies to keep us safe.
No,
We all have a role to play.
absolutely. Even small actions can make a big difference.
Right.
Talking to your friends and family about cybersecurity,
Yeah.
sharing tips, and creating a culture of security awareness. These things can have a ripple effect.
It's like a neighborhood watch for the digital age.
Yeah, exactly.
We can look out for each other and help each other stay safe.
Exactly. And it's important to remember that we're all human.
Right.
We all make mistakes. Nobody's perfect.
Right. We've all clicked on a suspicious link or downloaded something we shouldn't have at some point.
Yeah.
The important thing is to like learn from those mistakes and not beat ourselves up about it.
Exactly. Cybersecurity is not about being perfect. It's about being, like, better today than we were yesterday.
I like that.
It's about continuous improvement,
Yeah.
both individually and collectively.
And it's about supporting each other along the way. We're all in this together.
We are.
So before we wrap things up, is there anything else you'd like to add? Any final thoughts or insights to leave our listeners with?
Well, I think it's important to remember that cybersecurity is not just about, like, preventing bad things from happening.
Okay.
It's also about enabling good things.
That's an interesting perspective. What do you mean by that?
Well, when we have strong cybersecurity, we create a more stable and trustworthy digital environment.
Right.
It means businesses can operate more confidently, individuals can feel more secure sharing information online,
Mm-hmm.
and we can all benefit from the incredible innovations that technology has to offer without constantly worrying about the risks.
It's about creating a space where creativity and innovation can flourish
Yeah,
without being stifled by fear and uncertainty.
exactly. It's about building a digital world where we can all thrive.
That's a powerful thought.
Hmm.
And I think it's a perfect note to end on. So to all our Calm Coding listeners out there, we encourage you to keep this conversation going. Head over to our forum and share your thoughts, your
Yeah.
tips, and your strategies for staying safe in this wild west of a digital world.
Let's build a community of cyber savvy coders who
Yeah.
can, create amazing things without fear.
That's a great goal.
Yeah.
A community of cyber savvy coders.
Yeah.
It sounds like something out of a superhero movie.
Maybe we'll get cool costumes.
I'm holding out for a cape. But seriously, as we wrap up this deep dive into cybersecurity, I'm left with a question. We've talked a lot about the threats and the things we can do to protect ourselves.
Right.
But what if we looked at it from a different angle?
A different angle. You mean like turn the whole thing upside down and shake it?
Exactly. What if, just for a moment, we considered the potential benefits of these constant cyber attacks?
Okay.
I know it sounds crazy,
Weighing on me.
but hear me out.
Yeah.
These relentless attacks, while frustrating and sometimes scary, are forcing us to innovate and evolve at an incredible pace.
Yeah.
They're pushing us to develop new technologies, new security measures, and entirely new ways of thinking about data protection.
Right.
It's like a constant pressure test for our systems and our ingenuity.
You actually have a point there.
Yeah.
It's like the saying, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
Right.
These challenges, while definitely unwanted, are forcing us to up our game.
Exactly. So while we're not celebrating these attacks,
No, of course not.
we can at least acknowledge that they're driving progress in the field of cybersecurity.
Absolutely. And who knows, maybe someday we'll look back at this era and see it as like a crucible that forged a new generation of, unbreakable systems and incredibly cyber-aware individuals.
A generation of coding ninjas ready to defend the digital realm.
Now you're talking.
Well, on that note of cautious optimism, I think we'll wrap things up here. As always, it's been a pleasure diving deep with you.
The pleasure was all mine. And to all our listeners out there, stay calm, stay informed, and stay secure.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening, everyone, and we'll catch you on the next episode of Calm Coding.